Hey, welcome back to the garage, everyone. This weekend, we're going to take care of our fuel system rust problem once and for all. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. You know that this car has had a rust issue in the pre-filter for quite some time now, and I've just been replacing the filters and just kicking the can on down the road. But I can't let this go any longer. I've got a brand new set of Monarch fuel injection nozzles that I want to install in this engine, but I cannot do that in good conscience because of the rust problem in the tank, because I don't want to ruin my new Monarch nozzles with 36-year-old rust. So here's the deal. The tank on this car has got to be removed, cleaned, and reinstalled. Where does that leave us? Well, for one thing, the rear seat back needs to come out. We'll need to gain access to the fuel sending unit and disconnect the wiring harness associated with that. We will remove all the carpet from the trunk of the car, and then we'll remove the panel and remove our tank eventually. So I'm not saying this is going to be a snap, but I am saying it needs to be done. And along the way, we'll probably clean this area up here. We may have to get some new rubber around the filler neck. I'm not sure. I don't know the state of that yet, but we'll just see what happens as we go along. I'm thinking that might be a good job for super clean. But for right now, we need to drain our diesel tank. So I bought a new fuel can, a 5-gallon, and we'll go ahead and siphon as much fuel as we can out of this tank. And after we get as much fuel as we can out, we'll get the car in the air, and then we'll disconnect the lower fuel line and drain the remainder of the fuel from below. All right, so here's a tip for you to get as much fuel out of this can as you can. Yeah, whatever. So I had some of this stuff here, this leftover clear hose I used for my condensation drain pipe from the house air conditioning system. This is about, I don't know, 10 feet long, something like that. The filler neck is kind of wonky in there and zigzags back and forth. And if the hose you're using is too short, it'll probably kind of curl back up and end up above the diesel fuel. So I just shoved like, I don't know, 6 or 7 feet worth of hose down into the tank. I'm sure it's all cold around and matted up and everything, but at least it's down below the level of the fuel to get as much as we can. And we seem to have good flow again. In using the shorter hose earlier, my flow had stopped. So now that we have a longer hose, we're good to go. All right, we're back at it. I've got some sawhorses and a can and a funnel there like that, right? So. And we have the axle covered up with some plastic so we don't get any diesel fuel on parts that don't need to have diesel fuel on them. So next up, we're going to get a Phillips head screwdriver in here and disconnect the rubber fuel line and see if we can't drain the rest of the diesel fuel out of our tank. All right, I had to go get a longer Phillips head because naturally I left a screw head in a position that was hard to get to. So I'm coming at it from this other direction, but it doesn't appear to be that tight. All right, so that's nice and loose. We should be able to pull that off of there without too much trouble. All right, there we go. I was able to twist the line with this pair of lineman's pliers. All right, here we go. I'm going to put my finger over the tip, I think. There we go. Well, I did a fair sight better job of that than the first video from 18 months ago. Let's see if I can let that go. No, it's going to want to poke up there. So if you don't have one of these funnels here, you see this great big honking funnel I bought? Man, this thing is awesome. Look at that. Hyper tough. Made in the USA. All right, we're going to sit here and let the diesel fuel tinkle into the fuel tank, and we'll be right back. Let me show you a little something about why we're doing this. I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to look like that. I think you can tell there is a large amount of sediment in there. All right, we got all the diesel fuel out of the tank that we can get in that fashion. So next up, we're going to remove the fuel line from the fuel strainer. With the appropriate size wrench. This is a 19 millimeter. All right, we're going to let that drain for a little while, then we'll continue removing that. I don't want all that fuel gushing out of there at once. When you remove that line up there, there's a good bit of fuel left in that tank. So we're going to let that drip for a good long while, and then we'll remove it. All right, we're back. I removed the strainer, and you can see here the rust particles around the bottom of the strainer. So that is the culprit that we are trying to remedy. All right, we're almost done removing the carpet from the trunk. We just have this one back piece to remove, and then we'll be a little bit closer to removing our tank. But first, I wanted to show you a little something that you may have a problem with in your car and you don't know it. If you open your trunk and you smell diesel fuel, this is what's going on. So you can see it's pretty shiny there. We've got a little trickle of diesel fuel here and there, and this is what's going on. So there's a drain. You probably can't see it because of the angle of the dangle. Let's see if we can do it this way. There we go. That's a better position. Hey, look at that. There's no hose on the drain. So if there was any overflow from, it's not a huge problem, but if there was overflow when you filled up your car, it would trickle into that fender well. So it wasn't that nice. All right, let's get busy and remove this back piece of carpet. All right, that piece of carpet is attached to a metal plate, and there are a quantity of 3 8mm nuts affixing it to the underside of the back dash, as I call it, but others I know call it a hat rack, but I don't wear a lot of hats. Have I ever done this before? No. Are there any more fasteners that need to be undone? I have no idea. Let's just find out. All right, we got 3 more 8mm bolts on the bottom side, and they're hidden under the carpet. Okay, sip of coffee. Season's greetings. I think it's ready to come out. Whoa, that was hard. There you go, folks. Just a very thin piece of sheet steel with some carpet on it and held on with 6 8mm bolts. All right, this is what we have. There's the back of our tank. Clearly it has never been out of the car. It is rust free on the exterior. Probably all that diesel fuel leaking into my trunk prevented that. Now let's see what we have here. We have 4 bolts over there, we have 4 bolts on that side, and we have this thing attached to the side of the fuel tank. I have no idea what that is. I'm going to go look that up in the book. All right, so I pulled the seat bottom out, put it on the car, got the seat back, moved forward, got the insulation moved out of the way. If you want to look up the procedures on how to do that, you can refer back to the rear shock replacement video. But for right now, all we need to do is gain access to the fuel sending unit. And we just have one connector here that we need to pull off. Woo-hoo. Yeah, boy, that was hard. That's all we needed to do up here. Now we can continue on in removing our tank from the car. All right, let's see if we can pull this fuel tank out of the car. I've got all the bolts off, got all the fuel lines off, got the fuel sending unit disconnected. I've tried to tug on it briefly, but I believe there may be some adhesive sticking the fuel tank to the back side of the framework there behind the back seat. I'm just going to give it a good yank and see what happens. Yeah, that was it. They probably got some goop or some kind of sealant or something on the back side of the tank, so felt like I got it free that time. So been wrestling with it for about 10 minutes actually, to be quite honest with you. I didn't want to break anything, so when I took the 4 bolts off, or the 4 nuts off, and it didn't move, I was like, well, what's going on here? So anyway, all right, we're free, so let's wrangle this thing out of the trunk. Hey, there it comes. Yeah, they had it stuck on there with some glue. I guarantee you, I can't guarantee anything, but anyway, whatever. Let's just get it out of the car. Yep, there was some adhesive. There's an adhesive strip sticking it to the car, so I'll show you that once we get it out of here. That is not a handle. Do not grab that. All right, stand by. I'm going to get my helper to get this tank out of the car. All right, so got the tank out of the car. A little bit of diesel fuel spillage right there, but not a huge deal. And our plastic seems to have contained quite a bit of it, so that was a good move on our part. Need to wipe that out a little bit, do some vacuuming. You can see where there's an adhesive strip here, so if you take the fuel tank out of your car, you'll have to, once you get the nuts off from these 2 brackets, you'll need to tug on it pretty hard to break the adhesive sealant. This is a rubber boot. The vent pipe that comes from the top of the tank, it vents downward below the car through that rubber boot. And then there is our overflow, which is disconnected. What I'll probably do during this project is just simply replace that hose, and I will put a hose clamp on the other end so we don't have any more leaks. So let's take a look at our diesel fuel tank here right off the bat. Let's see what we have. You can see some redness right there in the filler neck. There's some rust there. I would imagine the inside of this tank is fairly rusty, seeing as how our pre-filter keeps getting clogged up all the time. Let's roll this thing over and take a look at the business end. All right, it's a little difficult managing holding both these cameras, but I've got myself zoomed into this one section so you can see the rust and corrosion on the top of the tank. And I believe that is the seam. One side of the tank doesn't seem to have any rust on it, but the other one does. That's interesting. All right, so, basically the question has been answered. Does the tank have rust? Well, by golly, it certainly does, and there it is. So, okay, folks, we're going to call that a wrap for the day. We got the tank out of the car, and the next step is to clean the inside. So we're going to call this part 1 of our 300SD fuel tank cleaning project. Hey, appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to be notified whenever I release a new video, like maybe part 2 of this series, well then, don't forget to click that little bell down below. You guys take it easy, and remember, enjoy driving your classic Mercedes.